This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, and it reads, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rahagakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashar Barzal from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. All right, this is yet another installment of our camp series called For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob. We go into the brutal history that Esau Edom, the so-called white man who is the wicked, according to the Bible, has inflicted upon the Israelites, both southern and northern kingdom, since we've been on this land. And, time is almost up, that recompense is going to happen. But it says for that violence, the shame is going to cover him. We're quickly approaching our 200th video, and that's just, we haven't even scratched the surface of everything that this devil has done. These are the things that are documented, okay? Documented. So it's saying his shame is going to cover him for everything that he's did to the Israelites, okay? And then, once that shame is done, it says that he's going to be cut off forever. Yes, you all will be going extinct, okay, for what you've done. There's no way out of it. No way out of it. So I'm going to get to this article. It's from one of our sites, blackpast.org. I'll put the link to this article in the description box, okay? It says Camden, New Jersey riots, 1969 and 1971. All right. There's a picture right there. And I'll put a link to this article in the description box. It says the city of Camden, New Jersey was setting for two deadly race-related riots on September 2nd, 1969 and August 20th, 1971. Both riots were in response to alleged police brutality or murder, the victims being an unidentified young black girl who was beaten by a white police officer in 1969, and Rafael Rodriguez Gonzalez, a Puerto Rican motorist who was beaten and killed by other white officers in 1971. So he has the southern and northern kingdom, all right? It says protesters called for the punishment of the officers responsible. However, in both instances, those responsible never faced full justice. And, the scriptures tell us, we got to be very leery of these police officers, okay? They be looking for stuff, all right? Let me grab that. This is Psalms chapter 10. Verse 8, all right? It says, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. And our neighborhoods are over-policed, okay? It says, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. Yeah, always, you can't leave Jake alone for whatever reason. Can't stand to see us happy, Just privily set, What's that trendy video that goes around? What's it say? You're never really lonely. When you think you're alone, there's always some white person in your business. That's what they do. All right? Look how many times they just walked up to people and started stuff. Couldn't have a barbecue. It's verse 9. It says, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in a den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth them into his net. And that's the thing, you don't want to get drawn into that net, all right? You do not want to get drawn in that net. If you do, you want to make it out alive, all right? A lot of times, Jake may not do nothing. He doesn't make it out alive. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 5, and verse 25. And it reads, Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. All right? That's typically the case. And sometimes, like I said, you don't make it to that prison. You know, they take you out right on the spot. And then, hey, from the time that police officer is on the scene, you know, it goes to them, the ambulance, the coroner, hospital, judge, they're all involved. Okay? The government at any level in the United States, don't care if it's fellow Jakes or not, they are against the civilians. Okay? We are a hated people even amongst our own people. All right? So like I said, sometimes, you know, you may not even get to the judge. You know, you're going straight to the, funeral home. All right? This is Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, and verse 13. It says, Keep thee far from the man that hath the power to kill, so shalt thou not doubt the fear of death. Because we already know, you know, as soon as the cops, you know, pull up behind you, hey, you know, Jake just want to get home. You know, one who's you know, doing the right thing. You got some wicked Jakes out there that be looking for you, but for the most part, you just want to get home. He says, And if thou come unto him, make no fault, lest he take away thy life presently. You know, go, you know, give him your identification. Don't be arguing with him. You know, no frivolous movements, so on and so forth. All right. It says, Remember that thou goest in the midst of snares, those are traps, and thou walkest upon the battlements of the city. So, yeah, wherever we go, you know, especially being Jake, you know, it's always a battle, you know, and they be looking for us, for real. What's that? Lamentations 4, I think 15 or 18. 18. Yeah. It says, They hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, our days fulfilled, for our end is come. And that's what it feels like, you know. I know especially in, what was that, 2014? It was back-to-back days in early July. Philando Castile was gunned down, and he was cooperating with that police officer. Okay. I think right before that, Alton Sterling, you know, was shot in broad daylight in the chest. Talking about he's reaching for a gun, and he had his arms bent down. Shot that man point blank in his heart, and you know, saw him die right on the screen. Same way Eric Garner did. You know, you saw the life leave away from those individuals. All right. So yeah, Jake, you know, while we in this captivity, you know, they making money off us anyway, in that jail system, or they taking body parts. All right. We just got to keep it real. All right. Back to the article. It says, At the time of the riots, the city of Camden was facing economic depression and rapid deindustrialization. 50 years earlier, in the early years of the 20th century, the exact opposite was occurring, where Camden underwent a great population boom in response to industrial growth and job availability. Many of the newcomers were Southern blacks. Okay? While this growth stagnated in the 1930s due to the Great Depression, it skyrocketed in the 1940s after the United States entered World War II. At this time, Camden was the home of the New York Shipbuilding Corporation, the largest shipyard in the world, as well as Campbell's Soup and the Radio Corporation of America, RCA, all of which greatly contributed to the war effort. It says after the city's economic peak in the early 1950s, Camden's economy began to decline, as did many other Rust Belt cities. With the country's decreased need for steel and jobs moving south, Camden's employment rate sunk. As jobs moved out of Camden, so did its middle class, mostly white residents, as the city saw a record loss in population in the 1950s. It says the poor, including many African Americans, stayed. As targets of a long history of job and housing discrimination, they had little choice. Crime and violence rose, exacerbating pre-existing racial tensions and leading the two race riots in Camden. It says the first riot started on September 2nd, 1969, in response to rumors of a white police officer beating a black child. That night, approximately 300 enraged residents gathered outside of Cooper University Hospital, where a rally began. A sniper then shot into the crowd, killing 15-year-old Rose McDonald and Officer Rand Chandler. The killer was never identified, and for the next week, the riot continued, causing greater destruction in the already declining Red Line district of Camden. Red Line, see there? We talked about that last week, 2 videos ago. You know, man, this place got to go. It says, after the initial riot, the city was at relative peace for 2 years until on July 30th, 1971, when white police officers Gary Miller and Warren Worrell beat and killed Rafael Rodriguez Gonzalez, who identified himself to the police as Horatio Jimenez, a citizen of Camden with a Puerto Rican background. The city's Hispanic population called for immediate justice and for the suspension of the 2 officers responsible. When the city's mayor, Joseph M. Nardi, took no action against the officers, another riot erupted. Started on August 20th, angered Hispanics and other Camden residents took the streets, demanding justice for the unprovoked murder. The riot produced 15 fires, 87 injuries, 300 arrests, and 1 death, prompting Mayor Nardi to finally take action against the officers responsible. And see, that's all you got to do. People just want to be treated fairly. But they know, what was that, Psalm 73:5? They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. You know, they know 9 times out of 10 they're going to get away with the shit that they do. All right? It says, initially the officers were only charged with battery, but after much public pressure, they were charged with murder. The jury responsible for their fate, however, acquitted the officers, charging them both with only manslaughter. See, same shit all the time. But, you know, once again, this article, that's the end of the article. You know, ironically, it mentioned, Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom in this particular instance. You know, I thought that was pretty interesting. And there's a scripture about our recompense. All right, a couple of them I'm going to get to. The first one is going to be Obadiah 1:18. All right, because they have no problem shedding our blood. Now, this is a future prophecy after Esau Edom is done, serving, his time in slavery, and he's going to be done away with as a nation. Thus saith the scriptures. I didn't write it, but I like it, and it's the truth. All right. It says, and the house of Jacob, that's the southern kingdom, shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph, that's the northern kingdom, a flame, and the house of Esau, the nation of Esau, the so-called white man, and those chocolate-covered Edomites that have that bloodline. All right, everybody's not all white, just like there's no all black Israelites. Okay, we were scattered and we intermingled. Their seed is all over too, just like ours. All right. It says, in the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it. It says none remaining of the house of Esau. So, hey, you might as well live it up now, because you got no future. you know, you'll be a two-time loser. Okay, you lost with your elites, and then you're gonna lose to the Israelites permanently. All right. So yeah, that hey, um, yeah, this is the scripture right here. This is gonna be your end. No more. All right. Let's add another one. Since it involved the northern and southern kingdom, this is the book of Joel, chapter 3, starting at verse 19. All right. It says, Egypt shall be a desolation. And, Egypt representing the house of bondage. You get that in Exodus 20. Okay. It says, and Edom, okay, the nation of so-called white people, shall be a desolate wilderness. That's your lands too. For the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. And in verse 20, it says, but Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. What's that talking about? That's the southern kingdom, Judah, dwelling forever, and the northern kingdom, Jerusalem, from generation to generation. That's us, in these immortal bodies. Okay, having the law, statutes, and commandments within our inward parts. Okay. So yeah, it says, verse 21, it says, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed. For Yahweh Hashem Yahushai dwelleth in Zion. And how is he going to cleanse our blood? This is the book of Numbers, chapter 35 and verse 33. And it reads, so ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are. For blood, it defileth the land. That's just what Joel chapter 3, verse 19 just said. They shed our blood and still shedding our blood continuously in this land. It says, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. In other words, fuck your reparations. The slavery and permanently, getting rid of you according to the scriptures. Remember, you all are Christians. You all are Christians. You're supposed to understand the Bible. You're supposed to know who it's talking about. We didn't write it. I'm reading the same Bible you are. I just understand it. All right. And what I don't understand, I have teachers who will make sure that I understand. All right. So yeah, your future is very bleak on this earth, and it's beginning right now. All right. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the leg body of the nation of Israel. Once again, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rahakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders and great millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, Abba Babal. We got next. Shalom.